Sonny, come on. Sonny, come on. Come on, Sonny. Every once in a while a movie comes along and the entire movie YouTube community comes together in complete harmony. It's also vital to remember that there are differences between films that I find to be complete rubbish. Some films are terrible because they take themselves too seriously, some are terrible because they strive too hard to be Oscar worthy or award bait, and some are terrible because they are such a catastrophe combination, yet you still adore them. Madame Web is a movie that has been ridiculed since its inception, and those impending and approaching catastrophic rubbish takes on a mythical force of its own. A movie in which Dakota Johnson's disinterest goes viral and the negative reviews turn into a selling element. I can attest that this monstrosity is just as horrible as you've heard after viewing it in its entirety last weekend. Yes, it has taken me a whole week to get my thoughts together on this masterpiece. Disasterpiece? Despite being one of the worst films ever made, I still thought Madame Web was hilarious for every dumb moment. I would go to the movies to see several sequels, and I would watch it again at any time or location. Is Madame Web the new Tommy Wise, The Room? Attempting to describe Madame Web to anyone is confusing. We keep reading about this movie on posters and in general everywhere we look. Her web connects them all. Three teenagers who have some connection to Spider-Man are referred to as them all, though it isn't actually explained in the movie. Sydney Sweeney, who is 26 years old, plays one of the teenagers. All three teenagers are not teenagers at all, and seeing them next to Dakota Johnson, they all look the same age. Even the casting director gave up on this movie before it even begun. But who is Madame Web? She is an elderly woman in a wheelchair who is attached to a life support system that resembles a web in the Marvel comics. Dakota Johnson plays Madame Web in the Sony movie. Although the superhero's name is Madame Web, the character is known as Cassandra Webb. The movie begins with Madame Web's mother in the Amazon, where the antagonist kills her in a matter of seconds. Both the writing and the direction are atrociously bad. The new, famous, widely shared phrase from the trailer,
"He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died,"
was inspired by this chilling beginning. This revered phrase vanishes from the film after it was widely mocked, and Dakota Johnson had an uneasy conversation with a journalist about this awkward exposition scene. Cassandra Webb, a paramedic, unexpectedly encounters her mother's killer, who is looking for three teenagers. He wants to get rid of them because after gaining superpowers in the Amazon, he has been cursed with the ability to see glimpses into the future in which these teenagers would murder him, or something similar. It doesn't really matter. And that's all you get from this villain. Every time he's on screen, he reminds us that these Spider-Women will kill him. Every time he's on screen. Literally, every time he's on screen. Anyway, you won't care. Why should you or I care if the people behind this film don't? You're watching this because you're aware that Madame Web appears to be a disaster piece, and I'm writing it because Madame Web is in fact astronomically a disaster piece, but it's also the most fun 2 hours you'll spend at the cinema right now. The villain is dubbed throughout the majority of the film. Tara Rahim is a native French speaker, and there are scenes where sentences are said and his lips do something completely different. Similar to the worst individuals you know that watch a foreign language film on Netflix dubbed rather than reading subtitled. It is an editing nightmare. When you view it, you can't believe how this movie was approved for release. If this movie wasn't deemed bad enough to be shelved for a tax write-off, one can only imagine how terrible Batgirl must be. Dakota Johnson is awful in this. Iconic for the history books miscasting. Before I begin, I must state unequivocally that I think Dakota Johnson is a great actress. Just go check out her performance in Suspiria remake. In the right hands, I believe she possesses deadpan power comparable to Aubrey Plaza. She makes me chuckle without trying. The her unwavering, I don't give a fuck attitude is addictive. Do you know where you have to give a little fuck? In an action-packed superhero flick rated 12A. I'm not sure how Dakota Johnson's name became associated with this film. Watching her stumble her way through Madame Web was a big part of why I liked it so much. Dakota Johnson, the actor being questioned, and Dakota Johnson, Madame Web, are almost identical. It is the same. If you're entertained by her interview style and antics, you can't help but smirk at Madame Web. It's as if she's gone deep undercover to ruin the never-ending stream of superhero flicks from within. I love it. A gigantic billboard for Beyonce's Destiny in Love, a shared love for Britney Spears' Toxic, and a humorous moment where Madame Web states that she wants to go home and watch The Idol 20 seconds after nearly dying are just a few examples of how the 2023 setting comes across. The song Scandalous by Mystique plays during one of the teens' walk into the woods. It's unclear if the music is diegetic or not when Cassie throws them into the diner. It makes no sense, but it's kind of both, and no one gave a damn. Not at least me, who was laughing and shaking my head at their strange decisions. Even my wife, who I could see, had switched off at this point. When the Pepsi product placement became so blatant, I found myself shaking my head at the screen, and I fell even more in love with Madame Web. Those who who criticise Mean Girls' uses of merchandise have not seen anything. The brazen distribution of Pepsi makes you feel as though you're in the Truman Show. The last battle takes place on a Pepsi sign the size of the Hollywood sign. After the fight, the girls sip Pepsi. I was almost expecting one of the teenage girls to hand the villain a Pepsi can, in a rendition of Kendall Jenner's advert during the Black Lives Matter movement. In all honesty, though, and I mean this in the most serious way possible, I have not loved and enjoyed a superhero movie more in recent years. Even though Madam Web has been heralded as the reason why the genre's terrifying vice grip on popular culture may finally be released, between Madam Web, a movie that is only slightly less clunky than the adored big-budget MCU flicks, and their copious amounts of fan service and exposition, there is a very thin line. Madam Web will go down in history as one of the worst film failures of the recent past, and she deserves to be dragged. But precisely why I enjoyed it was that, if you walk in prepared, there's nothing but happiness to be had from being part of history and watching such a brilliantly entertaining awful movie. In addition to all the problems and shortcomings in the primary plot, Peter Parker's birth is treated as a side plot in the film, and it isn't really necessary. According to certain theories, Ezekiel Sims attempts to stop the future Spider-Man from being born in Madam Web's origin plot before the three girls came into focus. Oh, and baby Peter Parker is sort of in this. They play a game in a baby shower called Guess the Baby's Name. Peter is never said, and the thread to the story just disappears. Incredible stuff. Well, that's enough rambling for one day.